Abe, do you see Salvino? He says he's in here.
Listeners, I don't see him. I'm not seeing it.
This is my first time running a Twitter space, so I appreciate
Same.
everyone's patience in the audience today. Salvino gaslighting us? There's just no way. There he is. Maybe it's just very slow. Did he just bounce?
We'll get there, friends.
We're so fucking back. What up? Dude, I'm so dumb. I saw the Google Meet and I just jumped on the Google Meet.
Incredible. Well, I was hoping we'd have video. I was hoping we'd get you with the infamous mask, but
yeah, the mask has been retired.
Maybe next time.
Well, let me just.
Yeah, you let us know when you're ready to go. All right.
I'm ready. I was just tweeting it out.
First things first. Yeah, I mean, I suppose to kick it off, I just want to check in on how you're doing. It seems like, I mean, I'm personally still waiting for my Yapster invite, which I'm pretty upset about. But I imagine it's been a stressful week. Maybe you can talk us through how things have been since the launch, what kind of crazy fires you're sort of putting out on the back end there, how you maybe are reflecting on some prioritization decisions you made pre-launch.
Yeah, I mean, it's been kind of a whirlwind. So basically, we launched, I think, 12 days ago, and then and for the first 2 days, it's so funny. Like we were basically trying to like get as many people to join the game as possible. And on that first day when we launched, I think after 4 hours, the app was open. We were sending out invite codes frantically. We had like 60 people, I think, actually show up. And most of those people were just like our friends. We were like, it's over. And it's like, looks like it's probably time to move on to the next thing. And then we're like, all right, the game's not till Sunday. Let's lock in. And just like DM'd literally like a bunch of people and grinded that number from 60 to like our target was 200 people. We thought like that was enough for a ticker mode game to be fun. And so we grinded for like the next 2 days, got 160 people. And I don't know how but like some miracle, that first game actually just went successfully. Like for the most part, there was like a minor hiccup at the end, but outside of that, like it just worked fine. Like, and it was like for like 98% of people, it was just like perfect. And once people had actually tried the game, we just went instantly viral. So the ticker launched, the coin went to 25 million market cap in like 10 minutes. And the top player made, I think, like $500,000 in P&L. And that was it. Like from that point, it was just like a barrage on the servers and trying to keep it up. And yeah, since then, we've just been trying to keep stuff going. I think we had like 10K installs fairly quickly. But of course, most people got stuck on the invite code screen. A lot of like... we actually tested the game a ton. Like before we launched, we had like tested it up to like 1,000 players, but ultimately our tests didn't match what was happening on prod. It turns out like real users who are frantically trying to play the game play very differently than bots. So anyway, yeah, just been trying to keep the servers up, and the number one priority has been app stability, which is why you're not in the app, by the way. Well, it's not because I don't like you. It's just we want to make sure that everyone has a good experience.
You know what? Believe it, kind of. Mostly because I want to believe it. But I think Abe's going to your wedding and he's not in the app yet. Or you guys are both gaslighting me together. I'm not entirely.
No, neither of you. I'm being equally rude to both of you. So
yeah, noted. We'll take that into consideration. How are real users playing differently than bots? How'd they kind of surprise you there?
How are they playing differently? I mean, honestly, it's just that our like testing infrastructure is like, like the client that we have just behaves very differently, right? It like has like a reconnect logic. It's a real-time game, right? So it's much more aggressive in terms of like trying to get state updates. And so our testing infrastructure just didn't do that. It basically just did like the happiest path. In hindsight, it's like very obvious. I can't even believe we set it up this way. But yeah, so once we figure that out, it's late last night, we like realized that this is what was happening and this is why we couldn't match what was happening on prod. And we literally just were like running around the office screaming.
Sounds like a fun night.
Because we were so happy.
We'd rather have this problem than, spending a bunch of time making sure it scales and then having no one want it. I've been on that side of the problem before.
Me too, many times. So yeah. This is refreshing.
I wanted to ask about that. That's a good segue. So let's, I know Yapster's not the first product from Salvino, and I believe there have been maybe other products pre-Salvino, but let's bring it back, call it 13th century Florence. How did we end up here? And maybe more specifically, who is Salvino? Where'd that name come from? What's the story there?
Oh yeah. So I mean, I'll just give the quick TLDR. but I got nerd sniped by Nouns DAO in 2020. I think it was 2021 summer, and then I just saw this like really cool mechanism that was launched. It had like $70 million in the treasury of like January of 22, and like I just thought it was like a very cool mechanism. I was really into NFTs, felt like a punk 2.0. Just thought the community was interesting, and nobody was really taking it seriously. And so I was like, someone should just take that and run with it. And so ended up doing like an NFT project on with Nouns, created this account, and yeah, did like physical drops. Did a physical drop with Nouns DAO, and that's basically how this identity got started. The Salvino name actually comes from, I was like trying to figure out what's a good name to have for this like anon. And if you actually Google Salvino Armati, like there's a Wikipedia article that says that Salvino Armati was like was actually the inventor of the eyeglasses. But like upon further investigation, it's found that like there is no actual member of the Armati family named Salvino, so it just fit perfectly.
I'm proud to announce that your Twitter actually shows up before his Wikipedia page now.
Let's go.
It's like a big step.
That's the real flippening.
So you started with physical products, Nouns glasses, right? And then
yeah.
And then how do we end up at Yapster?
Yeah, so I mean, my background is that I'm like obviously like a software engineer by trade and a designer. It was like, how hard could it be to make sunglasses? Made the sunglasses over like a 3-month sprint. Did that. Worked on a couple of open source projects for like a few months. And actually, in that time period is when I met Amir, who's my co-founder. And we worked on like an open source ZK community tool. And then after that, I ended up weirdly like through a series of finesses somehow managed to do a collab with Jack Butcher on another physical drop. And that was like at the end of 2023, we did the Oviators drop and then shipped those out. It was like an intense 3-week sprint. And then afterwards, I was like, all right, I'm fucking done with physical stuff. It's a pain in the ass. Like the logistics are annoying. Like we have a warehouse that's like 5 minutes from my house that I have to go to every once in a while. And so I was like, I'm done with physical shit. I mean, I said that with Nouns DAO too, but like I somehow keep getting drawn back. But and then yeah, it just keeps inviting me back. But in March of last year, let's see. Oh yeah, I was just like, I'm primarily a software guy, so I hit up Amir and I was like, yo, I want to, I think there's like consumer crypto is really interesting. Let's just like schizo release consumer stuff, and that was literally the pitch. And he was like, all right, I'm in. And we were off to the races. And so our first product was this product called Scoop, which we launched on Farcaster last summer. It was like a 90-day sprint, did like 120K in revenue. We had about 12,000 users. That also went viral, but there was like some core issues with the mechanism. And so we basically just took those learnings and we're like, all right, what can we fix? What did we learn from here? What did we learn from this? And what can we fix? And that's how Yapster was born.
What were the issues?
Oh man, I mean, there was a bunch of them, but I would say like the core. There was like the core. I think the core thing that we learned from Scoop was just that like there's actually like multiple reasons why it didn't work, but outside of the mechanism not working, which can be fixed, the core issue was that like as a user, when you were using Scoop, it was like not a very emotionally rewarding experience. It was sort of always ambiently running in the background. You would come in, you would buy a few cards, right? And just a quick background on Scoop is that like the way it worked was it was like a sort of a mesh of Fantasy Top and Friendtech. And so you would basically just buy cards of people on Farcaster that you thought were going to grow. And on every buy and sell of the card, a cut would be put into the community pool. And then if those creators did well, you would earn a higher percentage of that pool. But the problem is like, as a user, you would come in, you would maybe browse a few cards, like buy something, and then it just sort of always ambiently went on in the background. It was like, and emotionally, that's just not very exciting. And I think what like people are really looking for is like if you look at something like sports betting, the reason people like sports betting is that you come in, right? You place a bet on a team that you like. You watch this like really exciting, engaging content, right? And you're basically, you're shitting bricks the whole time, right? You're sweaty. You're like waiting, what's going to happen, and that anticipation, that is actually what you're paying for, right? When you participate in like a sports bet, like And so that's what makes sports betting fun. It's the emotional experience of doing it. And so that is like what we tried to design around. So we were like, okay, like let's try to just like design around like 15 minutes. 15 minutes is all we get. And that 15 minutes should be super fucking fun. And let's just like dial up that intensity to like the max setting and then see what happens. And so that's sort of how we landed on the daily game with a 15-minute window and just tried to make it as fun as possible. There's still a lot of stuff we want to do. There's an MVP, obviously, but like, yeah, we want to make it more fun.
Tell us. I mean, go ahead, Abe.
I was going to say, I could have sworn I saw someone from you just the other day saying, and I quote, "My toxic trait is that I don't believe in MVPs."
Right. That's true. That's true. Yeah, yeah. This is our MVP. But no, I don't believe in MVPs. You know this about me.
But how would you reframe what you're doing in a way that doesn't conflict with not believing in MVPs?
I don't get the question. What?
Is there another way you think about the general concept of shipping something, even though you know it's only a smaller piece in your broader vision?
Yeah. I never actually know when the right time is to release something, to be honest. It's actually something that I struggle with a lot. It's something both Amir and I go back and forth a lot. I definitely fall on the side of like spending way too much time in a cave building and iterating and sort of like just like yeah, I don't have a good answer here because I truly don't know. We just kept going until it felt right.
Yeah.
And it just felt like unreasonable to release at that point.
Yeah.
And so one thing we did do was just like two things. One was like we basically, if you go to renegades.xyz/days, we have like a timer of when we started Yapster, and we look at that every day, like as stand up starts. That's number one, just to make sure that we have like a level of intensity, and then just to know that like we shouldn't let things get out of hand. And then the second thing is literally at the end of stand up, literally every single day, we would play the game together, right? Like as a team, and everyone would just like talk about, okay, what sucked? How did you feel? And we did that, like, I'd say probably, you know, 5 out of the 7 days.
Yeah. Did you get to a point where you played and you were just like, damn, this is sick? Or was it even still right before release? You were like, no,
we were way more bullish sort of going into the launch than when we were going into the Scoop launch. So I'd say we were like, okay, I think this is actually kind of fun, but we didn't totally trust our instincts here. We were like, I think people just need to try the game. It did feel like emotionally different going into the launch. We were like, I think this game is fun, but we'll see. Well, I will say what was funny though, like we had a completely different version of the game that we were testing before, and this whole like the ticker mode stuff was a kind of a last minute aggressive change. But yeah,
how last minute are we talking? Are we talking like week of launch?
10 days before, probably 10 days before launch. There was this like there was when we were shipping stuff into the launch. Like even after we had announced it, we realized like we looked at metrics and we noticed that 50% of users would just drop off the moment it came to submitting a ticker. And so we were like, fuck, like that's not going to work. Like people are just like, they don't want to take the time to submit a ticker. And so within like 2 hours, we had shipped a feature that allowed people to just like like tap a button, generate random ticker. And that helped like a bunch of people submit memes. And once people had learned how valuable it was to make a good meme, that was no longer an issue. And we actually sunset that issue or sunset that feature.
Like a purely random word ticker?
Someone on the team just literally.
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
We curated like 100 memes and then just made sure that there were no duplicates. And once someone took that meme, it wouldn't resurface it to anybody else. And then eventually it just ran out.
Interesting. At what point? So shifting a little bit, but only just a little bit. Scoop was on base. Is that right?
Yes.
At what point did you make the decision that Solana was the right choice for Yapster?
Yeah, actually pretty late into the game. Yeah, pretty late into the game because I think for the first at least 45 days of building Yapster, we were entirely off-chain. So the first version of the game that we built was entirely just like classic, on a back end, right? Like nothing on chain. And so we were iterating on that, the off-chain version for a long time. And so we actually were able to sort of punt the on-chain decision for a while. So yeah, I'd say probably, I can't remember exactly when, but I'd say easily, 45, 60 days into it is when we decided. And the decision it was kind of like we didn't put that much thought into it. It was like probably like a 10-minute discussion. It was like, all right, man, I think we got to pick where we should like, and it was just like, like, I mean, it just felt like culturally a better fit for Solana. And actually, the core sort of like reason it came down to was like, okay, there's in terms of like asset value, like on a chain, like Solana has 8x the amount of asset value relative to Base. And I think at the time it was even more, right? I think 8x is today, right? Like, but I think Base has something like 12 billion or whatever. And so you're some subset of that capital is going to be moving around, willing to try new stuff. And on Solana, that's just it's 10x the size. So it felt like, okay, that's good enough for us. I don't see why we would limit the size, limit the TAM. Also culturally too, right? Like like most of the meme coins and stuff, the largest ones are on Solana. So it just felt like a no-brainer there for what we're building.
Yeah, I think people drastically underestimate the cultural decisions and community differences here.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how that sort of plays out in the broader Ethereum world with all the fracturing. Yeah, fractures liquidity, fractures culture, community, these things. And that's a huge challenge for the ecosystem right now that they're working through, I think.
Yep. Totally.
You want to try any of your rapid fire questions? I know you had some cooking over there.
Yeah, I mean, you've tweeted a lot about lack of sleep lately, so I was just curious, who has less sleep? A dev who just launched a viral app on Twitter who clearly over optimizes front end polish versus back end server stability, or a new parent of an infant? What's your guess?
Probably a new parent.
I think your approach of like, I think probably a lot of people here, I mean, ourselves included, Will and I, spend a lot of time building software, and I think you hit on something very interesting, which is like, how does it make you feel, right? And I think there's a lot of like baseline functionality that is important to get on to be able to hit that mark. But I have a lot of respect for the products that you've shipped over the years. We've known each other for a while now, and it always does have this like very high level of finesse and polish, and it does make you feel something. And I think there's a lot of products that don't quite get there, even if it means staying up late trying to fix your servers as they're melting right now.
Yeah, totally. And if you look at, I mean, I think like the thing that we sort of think a lot about is, just how it makes you feel. And I think the reason for that is because if there's like, I mean, I personally think that like speculation is actually just a lot of fun. Like I do it in my free time. Like I buy meme coins, I do all kinds of degenerate stuff on chain, and it's just fun. And of course the money, if you make some, is great, but that's ultimately what it's about, is it's a feeling, right? And I don't think it's like a bad thing. And so like, I think too much speculation can obviously like kill a product. There's like a right balance to be found, and that's a really hard balance to be found. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I think we like there's a lot of features that we added in Yapster that are purely just about making it feel a certain kind of way.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of ways to make you feel an emotional connection to a product, and having skin in the game is certainly one of them.
Yeah, and exactly. And the other thing is like, I also like play poker with friends, right? And like, there's nothing like inherently bad about that, right? Like if you sit down at a table, like, there's been many times where people come sit down with some friends, put like $50 on the table, right? You lose it, you don't really care, but like, you don't care about the money. The money is not the point. The point is like the experience of playing together with your friends. And so like, speculative products have always died historically, right? But that is only true if the emotional value that you get for the cost of playing, like if the emotional value is lower than the cost of play. If the emotional value that you get is greater than the cost of play, then you will continue to do that thing, right? And so I think that's why you just have to, like, if you're going to build a speculative product, you have to build something that is like, that creates entertainment value.
Right. It feels like a lot of the like pure meme coin speculation, like the product like is the money, right? Whereas I think with the Yapster, even though I haven't played yet, Yapster allegedly,
yeah,
like that's a byproduct instead of it being the product, right?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I'm still skeptical. We'll have to see. Sort of, I don't think we're like quite there yet in terms of retention numbers are really good right now, but we'll have to see sort of how it plays out. It's too early to say that like we're off to the races here. But I mean, yeah. So we'll have to, we're obviously watching retention closely, and we're trying to find that balance. I think it's like a dial. You sort of like you have to find where you put it, to which setting you put that dial. Previously, the older versions of Yapster, the speculation was lower, and we actually dialed it up towards the end. And previously, actually, the entertainment value, I'd argue, was actually higher, but there's actually a tension there that exists. But yeah, anyway, that's another thing.
Can you break that down more for me? What's the one?
It's hard without sort of going into a feature that we're planning to release.
Okay.
So yeah, but TLDR is like right now. I think the content on Yapster like has gotten actually better recently because people have been taking memes a lot more seriously. Like I don't know how other players feel, but like when we play the game, we're like laughing because of like some of the memes are actually like really funny. And I think what we need to do is like get that content to be very, very good. Right, like make sure that that content, because that is also that's part of the emotional value that gets unlocked. Right, is like how good is the content in the app.
Do you think you could you have done Yapster without building on a blockchain like Solana?
I think we could have probably launched on base. I don't think I don't know. Yeah, but I think it would probably be inherently smaller. Is my
Because I
guess.
don't,
Like the outcomes are going to be smaller on.
like base versus Solana. I'm just saying, like, how much do you think the like, I can.
Yeah, no, you have to do this on. Like, there's no way. Like the amount of liquidity that just moves on chain is like essential to be able to have people come in and be able to speculate on the coin that gets launched afterwards. Right. The fact that the first token ran to, you know, at one point, I think 60 million or 55 million or whatever, like that would not happen.
The fact that it is real money actually does, it's not just like points in the game, right? Like this wasn't possible previously.
Like this, like, yeah, the user base is just totally new, right? Like this kind of like risk capital that's willing to try and speculate on things on chain is just completely new. You wouldn't be able to do this anywhere else.
Have you found that Yapster is actually able to onboard people into the crypto space? Like people are showing up for Yapster. I mean, for what's worth,
actually, so there's been some indication of it. Like there have been a few cases. Like I've been like getting on calls with certain users, and they've like told me that they've like onboarded their partner to the app because they're like, oh, that seems fun. So I was like, oh shit, that's crazy.
Is there an extra special experience when you play sitting in the same room with people? Like, does that enhance the meaningfulness of it?
No, I'm not sure. Probably. I think it's like the thing is the way the mechanism works under the hood is like because there's like in theory hundreds and if not thousands of submissions. What happens under the hood is like there's a bracket that gets created, right? Like a tournament style bracket,
right?
And all of the users get split up into a bunch of different lobbies, and so like lobbies of like 20. And it basically you're competing in that lobby to make it to the next round, and you make it to the next level of the bracket. And so you may not end up in the same lobby, and so you're probably going to see different.
Are you ever like turning your screen around to share something particularly funny with someone else in the room, or is it happening too fast to even?
Well, as a team we do, but if people are playing together, then yeah, I bet that probably happens. I would like to bring a lot of that kind of though.
Yeah, Abe and I in a past life had a brief foray into like in-person social gaming. What could you do if everyone has a phone in their pocket? We built this little like Codenames replica that used phones for like the spy board for those familiar in it. It's actually like quite awesome, and I kind of imagine Yapster can have some of that magic too. So where do you go from here? What's next for Salvino? It sounds like you're cooking something up that's going to be released. You're obviously working very hard on stabilizing the back end,
sending out more invites.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that's literally, the number one priority right now is just making the app stable so that we can let more people in and actually play the game. What's crazy is like, I think we've only let like actually people who have actually tried the app, I think like because they've gotten invite codes and been able to get in is like 500 people.
Wow.
Like it's not that many, like, and most people are like looking for an invite code. I just know that if we unleash the invite codes, like we will have stability issues and people will be annoyed and like obviously since there's real money on the line here when you actually join a game, it's like you have a certain expectation of what's going to happen. And while I have screamed from the mountaintops that it is a beta, nobody seems to understand. None of our users seem to understand that. But it is what it is. So yeah, I just want to make sure, number one priority is app stability. And once we get the app stability fixed, there's like based off of what we're seeing and how people use the app, we're making some adjustments. So like immediately it is like we've noticed that while users, have learned the value of submitting a meme, not everyone has the time or the want to spend the effort to submit a really good meme, right? There is very like a distinction between the kind of person who creates and the kind of person who just wants to like buy a ticket and play and look at good content and bet on good content. And so we're going to split that up into like creators and bettors, basically like a bet only mode. You can just come in, buy a ticket, don't think about content, and so you can just come in and play if you want. So we're going to ship that soon. It's in progress now. Outside of that, there's like minor mechanism adjustments we'll have to make just based off of how we're seeing the content stuff play out. Like we've removed, there was like an issue with like duplicate tickers. So like a lot of people had the same idea of launching like Salvino coin or whatever, and the votes would get fragmented across all of them. So that was an issue. So we were fixing stuff like minor stuff like that. And then, outside of that, I think there are like basically, I think it should be assumed that every parameter within Yapster will be tweaked in service of trying to do something interesting. Like I think what's cool about Yapster is like the mechanism is interesting because it selects for really good content to rise to the top during the process of the game. And so as long as the time to consume a unit of content is below, like I'd say 5 to 10 seconds, you can actually open up the types of content in there, right? So there's no reason you could do things outside of memes, right? Like as like other things that you could like see and speculate on. And other stuff like that. So I don't know if that makes sense.
Tweets, audio clips.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Who knows?
Right now, what's your question? How important is this like 15-minute window?
Good question. I think, it's really important in the beginning. Like one of the reasons to do that is, well, it was just like, how do we make it super intense for 15 minutes? Like it was born from that. But the other reason is also because, we just needed a way to solve the cold start problem, right? Like there's like, if you come to an app and like, you see a few people around, but 90% of the time, no one's going to be there, right? And it's going to feel dead. This solves that. And so I think over time, there's a way to like make it so that anytime you come to that app, there's always something happening. But I think, we just have to like grow into that. I think it's one of those things that unlocks at a later stage. It doesn't unlock right now.
Right. I mean, I don't actually know the history here, but I would imagine ESPN, or live sports, right? Like there is some analogy where you have to earn the right to be able to like capture more attention versus just like in that narrow window.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I think what's really cool is just like things that unlock as you sort of get more users, right? Like the sort of space of possibilities of the features that you can ship just change, which has been really cool. Like things that you need to do in the beginning are not true later. Like the thing, like for example, like the generate random ticker thing, right? Like that was literally like a 2-day feature that we needed to ship just to get it going, and it is no longer relevant, which is funny. And I think that's just going to be true moving forward. Like we just have to be like, okay, what works in the current context? You have to play the field and like ship the thing that makes sense in the moment, and then sunset it if it no longer makes sense.
Right, and as it's kind of like grown and been validated a little bit, now it's like, okay, the way to solve that might actually be to have like creators versus consumers instead of just like building this button that lets everybody be a creator.
Exactly.
The path reveals itself.
Yep.
Do you think we'll ever?
Yeah, it feels like just like paths in the maze unlock. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, when I talk, we talk a lot, but we talk a lot about like the idea of like, I'm probably going to mess this up, like paving cow trails, whatever that phrase is, right? But like you want to see what people are doing, like make it easier for them. And then once you want to see what people are doing, and then once you've established that, multiple people want to do that, build a better way to do that versus having them jump through those hoops. So it's a cool example of that.
Well, I think that this was scheduled to end at 1:30. I should know as the host, but I don't. So I want to be respectful of your time. I very much appreciate you coming and talking with us a little bit about your story.
Of course.
I'm not holding my breath, but I'm very excited to play the game. I keep telling our team that we need to start doing it during stand-up whenever we get those invites. So I'm sure.
Once the apps are stable, right now everyone's locked in trying to optimize those DB queries. So I think we're pretty close, man. It's getting our feedback loop last night was big. So I think we're like, it feels close. Although it did feel close like 5 days ago. But I feel confident. Yeah, many such cases over the weekend. Over the weekend, like literally, like Amir was like, I think we're 15 minutes away. He said that he started saying that shit like Saturday afternoon, by the way, and that went until Monday morning at 5 a.m. Like we were all in the office and he was just like 15 minutes away. Like it was ridiculous. So,
actually, one quick question, not crypto related at all, but like, you guys have an office, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Why do you go that route? I know that we were, talking a bit about that a while ago, but I'm curious how that's netted out for you.
It's been great. I love being in the office. I mean, not everyone is in the office because we have 2 people remote. Our team is 6 now, but and those guys are, I'd say I'd say exceptions. It's like they're just really good. And yeah, it's been amazing. Like I think like obviously other teams can be really effective being remote. I just personally just it's just more fun more than anything else. It's like we work together, like the long tail conversations do matter, and yeah, it's just lower coordination costs. I think like a very good manager, like a very senior person can like probably operate in like a remote place, but that's just not me. And so like to me it's worth, like I'm not like an amazing manager or anything like that. I'm very chaotic, and so like being in person just like alleviates that. I try to minimize the amount of, yeah, I don't know, stuff like
Chaos.
that. Like I know my limitations.
How do you think about making exceptions for the 2 that are remote?
Well, they're just really great, and we did it before we had an office. Like we hired them before we had an office. So,
Yeah, put it in. Yeah.
but like moving forward, we're trying to be as in person as possible. So
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, but more than anything, it's just more fun. It's just literally actually just like, again,
Yeah.
goes back to the feeling
Yeah.
feeling of being in person together. It's like the laughs are just way harder, you know.
Easier to make meaning and community and shared experiences, all that stuff you guys kind of get for free when you're just hanging out, shooting the shit.
Yeah. Yep. Totally.
Sweet.
All right, guys. Yeah, this was fun. Thanks for having me.
No problem here.
Godspeed. Hopefully this weekend of yours is a little less crazy than last weekend.
Yeah,
We're rooting for you.
I just hope the app's stable.
I'm also,
We
I
can't
feel like
fumble.
I'm stuck on the outside of a club in New York City or something. It's freezing out here.
Soon. Invite code soon.
We'll start bothering Amir, I guess.
Yeah.
Now I know the right person to hit up. Yeah. I'll go straight to the source.
He's handcuffed here, so he can't. He's not going to go very far. All right, guys. Sounds good. Thanks for having me. We'll chat soon.
Later.
Awesome.
All right. See ya.